I'm waiting for a VR headset to arrive before I can get to the next big review, so let's kill time with some Wii Shovelware, Spy Games Elevator Mission. Supposedly the game was pitched as an entry into the Elevator Action series, because yes, Japan has an entire video game series about secret agents fighting evil with elevators. There's a new entry where you use elevators to fight Dr. Octopus monsters, and somehow that series was too good for this. Yikes. With an introduction so vague you'd think it was written by Neil Breen, you play as an agent who's sent into a big-ass building to find 5 top-secret data disks that will topple some unspecified crime organization. And the game just dumps you directly into the hallways to start because this thing doesn't even have an options menu. There's no tutorial or directions to explain what you're doing. There's no explanation about these techno-whatsits that you keep picking up out of the blue. You're just told to find 5 discs spread across 50 floors with a timer of only 15 minutes! Luckily the game does have checkpoints and time refills, but the opening is almost specifically designed to frighten off new players. Basically, the game is broken into sectors. The first disc is hidden somewhere on these top 10 floors, and that disc opens a gate to the next 10 floors. In that new sector, you'll find the second disc, and so on and so forth. And every new gate drops a checkpoint and gives you a fresh timer. So it's really just 5 individual stages that you need to worry about. The controls are pretty simple. It's a first-person shooter where you aim with the Wii remote, move and turn with the control stick, and strafe by holding the C button. It controls pretty well, except I started out playing this with my zapper, which isn't the most comfortable thing for holding C to dodge fire. My hand started cramping like crazy during every play session. It's colder than I thought it'd be. You can also use the Z button to jump and duck, but frankly, I don't think either action does anything. There's no platforming or cover to where you'd ever need to use the button. Why they couldn't use A to jump, since A does nothing except operate the elevators, I can only chalk up to them hating all of your fingers. So the object of the game is pretty simple. Find a disc, open the gate, get to the next level, shoot all the bad guys in your way. The problem is the building is laid out like a giant maze. Not only is every individual floor plan laid out with dead ends and crisscrossing hallways, not only does each sector have maybe 2 wall textures copied and pasted to where everything looks the damn same, but every elevator that you can find only covers 2 to 4 floors. So you have to constantly search for new elevators in the hopes of finding one that'll take you someplace you haven't accessed yet. What kind of demented madman designed this building? Even the people that work here must get migraines trying to get anywhere. Even a single floor will be broken into chunks that don't connect to each other to where different elevators access different pieces of the same floor. Like you have to go down, over, and back up to the same level to get to a new area. Pieces you didn't even know existed unless you instinctively realize the halls are too short. And you have practically 0 landmarks for navigation, so you pretty much just end up wandering aimlessly until you trip over a map or a disc by complete accident. And no, looking up maps online is not an option, and not just because barely anyone's played this thing. The back of the game's box boasts that the game procedurally generates a random map every time that you start a new game. That way, no 2 playthroughs are ever the same, and the game has infinite replayability. I mean, it's a nice inclusion, but show me a gamer who plays this more than once, and I'll show you someone with too much time on their hands. And because the entire game being a convoluted, samey-confusing labyrinth wasn't bad enough, we need to talk about the game's combat. And specifically, the enemies. The first sector has you fight guys in suits who die in 1 hit, and guys in different suits that die in 2 hits. And the white suit guys look exactly like giant Oompa Loompas. Their skin's orange and their hair is green. Is that the criminal organization that we're toppling? Bringing down Willy Wonka's chocolate empire? Oompa Loompa Doompa Dee Drill. Dude, you shot me, what in the hell? Enemy bullets move incredibly slowly, and they aren't a problem to dodge, so what's the issue? New enemies never stop spawning! If you stop to fight every single enemy, you'll be there forever. New ones drop every few seconds, and you get a small audio cue when somebody spawns, but not when anybody is on the move, so it's pretty much guaranteed that you'll get shot in the back on a regular basis. In my experience, you try running and it'll get you killed. And because I don't think the game has an upper limit on how many enemies can exist at once, some levels will just keep filling up until there's a massive horde through a hallway. The biggest help you get fighting enemies is that the AI has the intelligence of bread. They'll immediately lose track of you the second that you round a corner, and you'll find a lot of dudes running into walls trying to turn before they can shoot you. The biggest plot twist would be if we weren't actually a secret agent. We were hired by Mr. Wonka to weed out all his dumbest henchmen. You do get a few items to help out. These handheld doohickeys are radar pickups that temporarily mark enemies on the minimap. The goggles, meanwhile, are the worst invincibility power-up I think I've ever seen. You'll find panels on the walls that you can shoot to shut off the lights for about 5 seconds. And then you huck the goggles away after a single usage. I mean, sometimes it can come in handy if you're low on health or the spawner RNG's being a dick, but often it just felt like
the goggles do nothing.
You start with a pistol that has unlimited ammo, but you can find some alternative weapons. 2 of them. A shotgun that admittedly has its uses later on, and a machine gun that burns through ammo because enemies have invincibility frames when shot. You'll need to save both weapons for emergencies and suffer the slow-ass pistol for most of the game. You can also find health packs, but they don't restore much health. They seem to be random drops, and the time limit is way too strict for you to try farming health. So luck is an ever bigger factor to surviving this crap. This fight here, I spent over 2 minutes gunning down dozens of enemies, and not a single one of them dropped a health pack! And of course the graphics are fugly, looking like the game is still in beta. Barely any shading to the flat textures, each enemy class has exactly 1 character model, gaudy lighting, and the interface isn't stylized at all with tons of flat pop-ups around the screen. The game also has draw distance problems where enemies will just vanish once they get far enough away. An issue I didn't even think we still had by the time of the Wii. When you go to save in an elevator, I think there are no less than 3 sets of pop-ups on the screen. This is ugly as hell, and as bad as it looks, it sounds worse with such mild music that it might as well be muted, tiny puff of air effects for firing weapons, and exactly 1 death rattle across every enemy in the game. And the crummy gunshot sound effects come from the Wii remote instead of the television, at least on the occasions where the game hasn't broken to mute all of them, which happened to me a lot, just to lay the groundwork for how busted I think the game really is. Alright, first sector, I'm learning the controls, but all the enemies and bullets are slow as crap, is no big deal. Second sector, I blow through with relative ease, mainly because I found a map to sort out the level design. Sector 3 is where things start to be a pain. The layouts of the floors and elevators get more convoluted as you proceed, and they start adding enemies with better weapons and more health. Now most of the goons take 3 hits, I think, between invincibility frames and not flinching to certain shots. Luckily, I've been finding sector maps and they tell you exactly where to go. On one of the floors will be a bright red dot marking your current target who's got the next disc. I make my way down, I shoot the bad guy, I've got my next disc, everything is home free! I didn't get a disc. Instead, as I actually pay attention to the text box, I got a tip that I need to backtrack for the next disc. I'm on floor 21. I need to go to floor 35. Square in the middle of the previous sector. I've got no health and I need to backtrack through a full half of the game world thus far. And then I need to make it back again to the gate to complete this stupid level? Fuck you. So yeah, now's a good time to talk about how saving works. Every single time that you're in an elevator, you're given the option to save your progress. The game can only hold 1 save. Naturally, the shittin' thing doesn't even have an options menu. So when you die, you have 2 choices. Restart or quit back to the menu to load your save. Why the game over screen doesn't let you load your save right away, I don't know, but again, crap doesn't even have an options menu. If you restart, the game drops you at the beginning of that sector with full health and reloaded time, which is really nice, but if you reload your manual save, it drops you right where you left off, and you actually get to keep your map. So my options are to either start from scratch, or to try and salvage this save with shit for health. I took the save option, and died over, and over, and over, until I had scavenged enough health to continue. And every single time that you want to reload your save, you need to sit through the game's publisher logo just to add insult to injury.
Come on, move it down!
Yeah, with how difficult it can be to recover health given the medkit drops are practically random, screwing up even a little bit can cost you loads of progress with this save system. Your best bet is to save scum at each elevator you reach with decent health, as tedious and as painful as the process may be. And speaking of tedious and painful, Sectors 3 onward have unmarked walls that don't show up on the map, and force you to take massive detours wherever you go, because when you have a game this limited, you have to get screwy to up the difficulty. I finished Sector 3 by the skin of my teeth and moved on to Sector 4. Now the red douches who usually drop discs and have a lot of health are mixed in with the default enemies, so this is where the shotgun comes in handy to down enemies in a reasonable number of hits. Pretty quickly I again lucked out and found the map, so now I can pinpoint exactly where to find the target and move along. And as I sifted through the map with a zoomed-in, fine-tooth comb, I started to realize... Where's the freaking target?! I searched every single floor on this map. The target is not marked anywhere! I have no idea where I'm supposed to go! So I take it in stride. I'll just have to track down the next disc on my own. It can't be that hard. I mean, I've stumbled across at least one by pure accident up till now. I'll be fine. Yeah. 50 minutes later! I had searched what had to be the whole freaking sector and not found the damn disc! The other levels don't have any targets marked either. So maybe you'd think I just head straight for the gate. Weird time for the game to change rules, but I'll try it. No, that didn't work either. I don't know what to do here. I've checked everywhere, and I can't find the freaking disc! And with a game this cheap and busted, I have to ask, did the game bug out? Did the rules change? Did the procedural level generation accidentally make the game unwinnable? Or do I just suck? It's time for a deep dive. It is time for research. Okay, GameFAQs doesn't have a guide, big surprise, but it does have 2 reviews. One's from GameSpot, courtesy of an author who didn't seem to get that far, and the other is from a user who had the exact same problem. They got to Sector 4 and there was no disc. Except the author of that review claims to have explored all the way back up to the top floor in search of that disc and still found nothing. That is dedication. Wikipedia's article is barely a thing, but it links to IGN's review. Again, reviewer didn't seem to get that far. Moby Games cites Bad Game Hall of Fame, who claims to have beaten this thing, complete with a sidetrack to shit on YouTubers. Nice. And while their details get pretty vague after Sector 2, they don't mention the game changing rules on you. Finally, I stumbled across the YouTuber Silo Simon, who played the game as part of a series to beat every Wii game. Silo Simon did finish the game on stream, but it took him 3 tries, because, you guessed it, his first runs, he couldn't find a disc for Sector 4.
Pretty much, once we get to these 10 floors, it's like I just haven't been able to find, the 4th disc.
So yeah, it looks like Spy Game's elevator mission has a recurring bug where a game-critical item just never appears, and you just have to get lucky for the game to be winnable. So I guess the only thing left to do is start the game over. Ah! Oh, why did I do that? Ah! Ow! It only took me about 80 minutes to get back to where I was, and not only did I find Sector 3's map in the exact same spot as I did my first run, but take a look at this. Wow! Would you look at that? The world maps for both of my playthroughs were identical down to the pixel! And not only did I again find the Sector 4 map in the exact same spot it was hidden on my first attempt, but the Sector 4 maps were identical across both playthroughs as well. So either I'm profoundly unlucky, or the game box promising procedurally generated worlds was full of shit! Oh, and upon replaying the game, the target wasn't marked on the map for Sector 3 either, not until I got down to the bottom floor where the target spawns. So in addition to the game randomly bugging itself unwinnable, the maps barely work either. Once again, I'm in Sector 4, and once again, there's no target. So I do things the hard way. I spent the next 50 minutes scouring every single last inch of floors 20 to 11. I searched the entire sector. I kept consulting the map to make sure there wasn't a single area of a single floor that I hadn't checked. I even thought maybe the red enemies were still the key, and I took out every last one that I could find. And after those grueling 50 solid minutes of wandering the halls 3 times over, at last I finally found...
Nothing! Absolutely nothing! Stupid! You're so stupid!
Yeah, I still didn't find that damn disc. And adding insult to injury, I know where it's supposed to spawn. The upper left corner of floor 16. Because, fancy that, Silo Simon's winning run had the exact same world layout as both of my playthroughs. Weird coincidence, huh? I do have a working theory that the glitch kept triggering for me because I would get to Sector 4 with so little health that I would die and restart the sector on purpose. Best guess that's what's screwing me over, but level 3 is a marathon mission where I keep getting to the end with low health, and frankly, I don't care enough to start this pile of shit over again for what's probably gonna be another wild goose chase. Game's dog shit, and I'm out. Spy Game's elevator mission is pure garbage. You wander a maze with a whole 3 crappy weapons, shooting endless hordes of cheap respawning identical enemies on a lousy time limit. The graphics and sound are total garbage. I'm pretty sure the box lies to try and trick you into playing more than once. And as if building a game with no story out of abysmal objectives and the lowest production values wasn't bad enough, they couldn't even make sure the game was winnable. I've played Wii games with worse controls or less gameplay, but this is definitely in the running for the cheapest Wii game I've ever seen. Close to the bottom of the barrel for shovelware. But never mind that, because my new VR headset has arrived. Oh yeah, can practically smell the future of gaming.